and welcome to the Healing Path. I'm Laura Donnelly, founder of the Healing Path Conversation Series and Dancing with Ease Body-Brain Balance. People hire me to teach them to move out of pain and into healing. These conversations with friends and colleagues offer many perspectives on healing. The things that we have in common is the concept that healing begins inside ourselves with the vision to heal, and it expands outward from there. There are many modalities, many different ways of choosing to heal, and my guest today is Stacy Raye Kellogg, and she's going to talk about the importance of nourishing yourself as the beginning of healing. So here comes Stacy onto the video.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for your interest.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you so much.
I'm happy you can come today. Do you want to share a little bit? There's your bio description and everything, but if you wanted to share a little bit about your work and how you decided nourish yourself was one of the most important things.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So I, as my bio says, I work primarily with women, and especially with deeply caring, high achieving women. They may not necessarily call themselves that, but they may identify more as exhausted nurturers, folks that are really good
Wow.
at caring for others and with a lot of practice doing that, and maybe not as practiced at caring for themselves or nourishing themselves. So I do that in a variety of ways, through one-on-one coaching. I have a women's circle. I am just starting to do some one-on-one retreats. Yeah, and it's really rewarding work. And the Nourish You First, the reason I chose that topic, Laura, was because I did a kind of a visioning exercise around this new year, and we were asked to choose kind of one word for the year. And I broke the rules like I enjoy doing, and I chose Nourish Me First. And it's a message that I think so many of us need to hear any time of the year.
Absolutely. Any time of the year. And I think there are busier times of the year where we can program in that we want to do that. Like if you have kids and the end of school, that's a key time, starting school, right before the holidays. So what are some of your favorite strategies for nourishing yourself, personally?
I love hot springs. I grew up in South Colorado, in Durango. Yeah, I think we've talked about this a little bit, maybe. And I get so much like soul nourishment, recharging, full body reset by soaking in hot springs and just having nowhere else to be, no screens. Like the only assignment is to just kind of open up, melt, receive. I love going to hot springs that are outside where there's a beautiful view and you're under gorgeous trees, getting to hear birds singing. Like there's just something about that I find to be the most nourishing activity I can do. How about you?
I like hot springs too. There's a really, really great outdoor one in Tonopah, Arizona, west of Phoenix. Then sometimes we go to Truth or Consequences in New Mexico. There's a lot of them there.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go to Colorado. We haven't gone all the way to Durango. You know, the Continental Divide is there.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a divide.
Yeah.
But so the other thing that that sometimes I do is I make really good food for myself. You know, I live somewhere where it's very easy to know the farmers who raise the food that I want to buy and eat. And so then I know that the nutrients, well, the raw ingredients I'm using, I know where they came from. I know who raised them, and have a big garden that my husband does most of the time, and I get to harvest and cook, so
Nice.
that's great.
Yeah.
And so that's a real physical nourishing, but the whole gardening piece and the actual working with my hands to make the food, that's also very what do I want to say? Makes me feel good, just
Hmm.
makes me feel good.
Yeah. That gave me goosebumps when you said that. It just felt so true. And when you touched your heart, it was like, yes, that is nourishing in a variety of ways, it sounds like.
Well, it's also creative too, because I I don't really plan ahead very well. But
Yeah.
I have a freezer that's okay. So that's two things. So spontaneity and improvisation are also two things that bring me a lot of joy. And I think joy is something that's nourishing to me. And to do the things that bring me joy nourishes me. So a lot, and so then also under the line of emotion and creativity is a lot of times I go and I open my freezer and I'm like, what do I have? What can I make with what I have?
Yeah.
You know, and uh, and then it entertains me to put something together. And my husband said, "Well, this is really good," and I said, "Well, I liked it because I use the leftover smoked turkey, and we don't have any more, so we can't have this again."
I love that.
And because it's a one of a kind thing because it was what I had on hand, you know, and then okay, then also now that you said this, so then to be with people who are nourishing to me is also nourishing to me. So yesterday I made something with rice and I left it on the stove too long and the bottom burned. And he goes, "Oh, we are having long rice today." And he just doesn't throw a fit.
Oh,
All of it wasn't burned, but it was like a little smoky
yeah.
flavor. And the fact is that he will experiment and eat, and even if I goof up, he's not that big of a he doesn't have that big of a problem with it. So
Mm,
that I can so that I still feel free to explore, right?
yeah. Freedom. It sounds like freedom contributes to your nourishment too.
That would be it also. That's actually I have freedom so high on my list that I sometimes won't make any choices, and then I realize, oh, that actually eliminated freedom by not making a choice. So that's another thing in terms of, I'm sure you find this when you work with people,
Mhm.
uh, degrees of something,
Yeah.
you know, and the fact that I'm still playing with freedom. How does freedom nourish me? How does freedom constrict me? When I won't make commit to a date or a time because this is going to pin me down, is
Mhm.
that really freedom, or is that eliminating the opportunity to have coffee with somebody because I wouldn't confirm the date?
Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's such a great question. And it's like, where am I coming from? Like, am I coming from a energy of freedom or am I coming from an energy of scarcity? Like, if I say yes to this, then I'm gonna lose out
What
on
do I have to say
something.
no to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But by not saying yes to anything,
Right.
am I eliminating everything?
Mm.
It's a funny,
It
it's very funny.
it is. Yeah, I do a lot of values work with people. I'm sure you do too. Um, I'd love to hear about that. I What I find sometimes is that our values can kind of rub up against each other sometimes. Like that value for freedom And maybe the value for connection, that can be tricky. It's like, I want to see other people. I want to be with other people, but I maybe don't want to commit to coffee this week because I'm already kind of busy, and it's like, how do we navigate living the life we want to live, um, you know, while also having a few top values that we want to honor while we're living it?
Right. How do you help somebody with that kind of a conflict?
I usually look at So one thing I love to look at is like how we're doing something. So there's the what, like coffee with a friend, or there's the why, like why does it matter? Why does connection matter? Why are you even considering this? But then, oh, sorry, my screen blocked out. Okay, here I am. Um, but then there's the like, how am I doing this? So to use nourishment as an example, when I was planning my one-on-one retreats, I started planning it like at the end of last year, and I noticed that I was kind of being hard on myself as I was creating this offer, and the how I was doing it was the opposite of nourishing. So it's really important, I think, to look at there's ways we can honor our values that sometimes maybe on the outside don't look like we're honoring our values, but we can weave those in small ways. Just asking to use the coffee with friend example. It's like, how can I infuse freedom into that choice? Like maybe it's rather than saying, okay, let's meet on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Maybe we agree to talk that morning and make sure it's a good time. Or maybe we take a coffee on a walk instead and we get to walk around on an uncharted path that we're just deciding as we go. So you can honor a little bit of that freedom as you're getting the connection. But I think the way we do things can be everything.
I would agree with you. That's a lot of my work. I have my to-do list. Everybody has a to-do list. Am I going through that list? Well, that's not nice. That's not nice to me. It's not nice to my list. It's not nice to the items on my list. But if I look at the list and like you said, I just look at it and what else? Oh, there's this rule that you're supposed to put them in number order. Well, that rule doesn't fit me, right? So I
Yeah.
gave myself the freedom to just put everything on the list. And then I look at the list and I kind of see which thing pops out at me to do first. And then I do that. And then I usually know what is the next thing and the next thing. And then I kind of flow through fast. But if, somebody eat the frog, do the hardest thing first. I'm like, why? What if I did 3 super easy things and I got my flow going
Yes.
and you know? So
Maybe your frog needed an appetite.
so I need an appetizer, right? But it's again too, maybe for somebody else, doing that hardest thing first opens up the door so that they can blast through. That's nourishing for them,
Right.
right? It's not necessarily nourishing for me. And that's one of the things we've talked about before is the unique individualization of how you work with somebody.
Yes.
What they bring is important to the dynamic and the puzzle and the next step as what you bring in terms of knowledge but also sometimes people just need a space to explore their own ideas,
Yes.
but it's not their head, not inside their head where they just spin and spin and spin.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because I think for so many of my clients, because they're high achieving people that usually can knock off that to-do list and, set a goal and reach it, there's this judgment and blame that happens if they're doing it only in their heads and they're not actually like getting it out and sharing it. Um, that can get really ugly really fast because it's like, oh, I want to do this, but the self blame and the self judgment can get so loud that it eclipses the beautiful seed of whatever idea or dream they're trying to nurture.
Yeah, that's true. Or they can get caught up in the minutia of the steps. This, I think, also a lot of the people I work with are gifted and talented and super sensitive, you know, and so they're always paying attention to things and trying not to upset the status quo. Darn, 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 darn. And and to a certain degree, I don't know if your people find this, but a lot of times my people are so smart that they think I should be able to do this by myself.
Yes.
And I could do this podcast. I could talk about any old kind of thing every day, all by myself. But the magic happens when I share with somebody else.
Yeah.
Your idea sparks my idea sparks your idea, and we bounce off, and new ideas come. New ideas come that wouldn't come if I just was sitting here talking to myself about. I could talk about self-care and how nourishing yourself first is self-care, and all the stuff,
Yeah.
but it's not the same as being in dialogue with somebody, and being in dialogue with somebody who is paying attention to the nuances, because I hadn't thought about that freedom and communication, or connection, community, whatever that word was that you said. Thank God this is recorded. I can't go back and find it.
It's all good.
But I hadn't put together that those two values might not just run right alongside each other like two wheels on a wagon easily all the time. Sometimes they just do. They flow and everything is cool. But sometimes on that side or something, and it's like, bonk, and this one's just. So now I have a new idea. Out of my podcast, sharing your good stuff with the world, I have a new idea to play with. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And while you were talking earlier, I have an idea sparked in my head, something that I've gotten from somewhere else. I do a lot of co-working. You and I actually have done some co-working in the past. And
it worked really nicely.
Yeah, we should do that again. One of the things that I love about these co-working circles that I've been a part of is that there's often something you want to do. So to bring back that to-do list idea, but not only are we sharing what we're doing, we're sharing how we want to be with it. So part of my coaching training was with the Coactive Training Institute. And the co is about connection and who we're being, and the active is about actions and steps and doing. And what I love about that approach in co-working is that not only are we saying, well, hey, I want to write this email to my list, but we're consciously deciding and setting the intention of how we want to be with it as we're doing it. So I think that weaves in that, like, how am I going to be as I do this? And it helps us see ourselves as multidimensional beings and not robots trying to get through the to-do list as fast as we can. So I wanted to share that in case
That's so important
to people that are watching. Like, you could take your to-do list, draw a line down the middle, put the things you need to do on the left, and on the right, put the how do you want to be with each of those things, so that you can consciously get into that state and have that on your radar, in addition to just checking off all of the things. I just thought of that and wanted to.
It's like the story. Yeah, it's great, and it's like the story you shared about creating the new one-on-one retreats, and that when if you're making a product, even knitting, right? Okay, even knitting. If I bring all this tension to it, then my yarn is is not even and flowing. And so what I make contains all that tension. And especially when we're working with other people, if we do that, then this thing that is supposed to bring joy and fun was built with a lot of tension and frustration. And it's hard to get it out of there, because it was built into the original concept, sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. And to use your earlier point on cooking, it's almost like that was another recipe in the ingredient. So we've got to be really conscious of what ingredients we're adding.
Right. And if this is my thing that I do to help people, like the healing path, and people say, well, what day do I show up? And I say, whatever day for you. And they're really, it doesn't work for me to have a fixed schedule. It works for me to meet people where they are. And so if afternoon is good for you, we'll do it in the afternoon. And if morning is good, we'll do it in the morning, because I have a bit of flex in my schedule. And like you were, even it's like the coffee meeting at a mutually agreed upon time that works for both people is better than saying, well, it has to be Monday at 2 p.m., period. Well, then I can't ever do anything else at Monday at 2 p.m. that I might want to do. And you might not be able to be a guest because that might be a day that you absolutely weren't free. And so what else do I do that's wrong with my podcast? How do you like that?
It's co-creative.
What's wrong with this? It's co-creative, right? It is co-creative, so that's right. But the thing I do is I don't broadcast it at the same time or place all the time. And I'm like, well, my people are not in the same time or place every week.
Yep.
This day is this way, that Monday is another way, Friday is the day they have, so part of that took me a long time to figure out, to be to be okay not following the rules, like you said at the very beginning. So like how I create my rules.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's something, and it goes with what, I'm looking at your website names, Dancing with Ease. I think a part of Dancing with Ease is like that co-creation and not holding too tightly to rules or to anything else that might get in the way.
Well, and it's like your Instagram too, outgrow the grind. I mean, who made the grind? I made the grind, right? I decided that these are the rules and I followed these. I did this when I was young. I was so good at I made a complete and tight structure. And if I need that, I can do it now. If I need it, I have that skill. So that's okay. But somewhere in the middle of my life, I realized that structure it didn't make me nice to be around first with other people. It wasn't fun for me to be around other people. Mm-hmm. Well, I might have fun, but they didn't. But it also, I wasn't the how of doing what I was doing. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing that much. So even now, if I do less, I enjoy it more. Hmm. So I think that what I do, I do better, or maybe not as perfectly, but with a better energy that is like co-working, more open, engaging, improvisational, and curious.
Yeah. It also sounds like more present. Like you're able to be really present and not be like tracking the to-do items in your head as somebody else is talking or
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So do you have something that somebody came up with that was nourishing for them, that was really surprising to you, like that you would have, because everybody is different, and what nourishes one person might not nourish somebody else.
Yeah.
But that was really surprising to you?
A theme that I've seen across many of my clients is time in nature and time outside. A lot of folks that I work with are, on the computer all day and staring at screens, whether it's their laptop or their phone. And they love being outside, they love being in nature, but they weren't making time for it. So, sometimes it's as simple as I'm going to go for a walk in the middle of the day and it's going to be a 10-minute walk, but I'm going to step up, go outside, and be in nature. So it's things as simple as that to things as large as, I worked with a client once. I think she had worked in her current job for maybe 10 to 15 years, and she had gotten to the point where she had earned a, what is that word? I'm drawing a blank on the word, sabbatical.
It's about it.
And she had never taken it. And she could have taken it like multiple years ago, but she had never even considered it as a possibility until we started working together. And she was able to see like, well, here's this thing. I've been working really, really hard. I've earned it. I've more than earned it. And she started to be able to think about how she could give herself permission to do that in a way that on her own, left to her own devices, she would have, just continued to work and work and work and work and work and not think about using that benefit at all. So it can be such a variety of, little things like a 10-minute walk to big things like I'm going to use that. I think it's like a 3-month sabbatical that I earned 5 years ago. And I think I think it all comes down to this permission, like being able to access permission for ourselves. Like today, I'll give you a silly example. I knew we were talking this afternoon and I had a pretty open schedule and I was really craving a chai. And there's a couple of places around town that have really good chai. But I was like, no, I want to go to that one place that has the spicy honey chai. And I did that before our call because I knew that I would be like more resourced and more refreshed and more joyful with having, gone to get that chai. So I think there's so many decisions, big and small, where we can give ourselves permission to nourish ourselves. And as you were saying, when you were talking about your husband and being up for adventurous eating, I think everyone benefits when we follow those little nourishing nudges for ourselves. We get to show up with more energy, more presence, and we start to build this relationship with ourselves, build trust between us and us in a way that kind of overflows.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like listening, and asking yourself, what do I need now? I mean, how often in the day do we do that? The alarm goes off and we jump up and we do this and we do that. And even something as simple as if I look at my clothes in my closet and I say, what texture will feel good to my body today? Because I have fuzzy things, I have slicky things, I have warm things, but just to ask and listen.
Yeah.
Oh, I want that thing, and then all day, without even knowing it, all day that texture is nourishing my body.
Yeah.
I'm apt to do it's not a chai, it's a Baskin Robbins frozen
Oh yeah, we've talked
cappuccino black.
the cappuccino blast. Yeah,
So they're so good.
those are good.
So sometimes I have had a busy day and I've done a lot of stuff and I have things to do later in the afternoon, but I have a little blank time and I'm like, I'm going to go have that. That's going to just tickle my taste buds and be happy,
Yes.
So I love that too. And the idea, the whole idea that after we earn something like a sabbatical, that we aren't worthy to take it, or that we don't have time to take. That's just one of the things that was in your opening material is that we feel selfish if we take care of ourselves, that we feel selfish if we do the things that nourish ourselves. But if we don't take care of ourselves, what do we have to give from? You know,
Right.
which is why when I had my total organization and rules, I wasn't very nice to be around. People, I got a lot done. If somebody needed something done, they called me. If they needed something done with fun, they called somebody else.
Wow.
because I got it done at the expense of myself, and sometimes at the expense of the people I was working with, because I expected them to do all their work without taking care of themselves.
Yes, I can relate.
And so I think that nourishing yourself first also creates an environment
Yes.
where you can inspire and encourage the people in your family that you work with to nourish themselves
Yes.
first. I mean, and this is not like I get all the mashed potatoes at the table. No, that's not what we mean.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game.
Right.
Yeah, there's enough. There's enough
That's enough.
nourishment to go around. And when we give ourselves permission, other people are watching. Coworkers are watching, kids are watching, younger people are watching, regardless of age, everybody's watching, and then they can see, oh, it might be possible for me to give myself permission as well. It can become a really positive ripple effect as well. And so can the opposite, oh, I'm too busy. I can't take care of myself. Life's a slog. I've got to just get through as many to-do list items as possible. That can also be contagious.
Yeah. So we're right back to what you said earlier. How we do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. How we do what we do.
Yeah.
That's right. And how we do, even some of the boring stuff, like, hey, I need to clean my bathroom. And it's like, what are the ways that I can make that more joyful or make that more connective? Maybe it's like I'm playing music while I do it, or I'm lighting a candle who's the scent I love, or I'm calling a friend and I'm talking to her while I'm cleaning my bathroom. Like, there's a lot of possibilities of how we choose to show up to something, even the things that we'd rather not do.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, that's awesome. So I have your website here, and it's in the description of each video, and your Instagram, which is where people can follow what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that they can find out any programs you have, any
Yeah.
offers.
Yeah, I've got a workshop
If you
on Saturday.
Oh,
Sorry to interrupt.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
how to consciously close 2023 and consciously create 2024. And it's a lot of fun. I did these last year where folks have a workbook, so they have some kind of structure, but it's a really creative process to really design your new year and design what you want it to be like, design what you want more of, and design what you want less of.
That's important. That's important. Because if you don't make less of something, there's not necessarily room for something else.
Yeah, that's right.
So all the information on your website about that workshop?
Yep. If you go to my website,
Awesome.
there's I think it's like services and then join a workshop, and all the info's there. I'm doing a version of it in person tomorrow here in Athens, but I'm starting to talk more about the virtual one on Saturday because that's more likely to bring internet folks in. But yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. This has been so fun to
It
just,
has been fun.
well, it's always fun to see
You too, Lauren.
but to hear a little bit more about what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you support people. So I really appreciate that you came on. And if you have anything else you want to come together with at the ending, as an idea for people to try or to think about or something.
Yeah, I'd love to encourage folks to try that to do and to be list, to give that a whirl, and to just start thinking about how they want to be with these things that they're doing. That's my little
Perfect.
takeaway tip.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. I appreciate that you came on and shared. It's always good to see you. And so until next time.
Thank you, Laura. It was such a treat to be here and to talk with you. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you.
Yay. Bye-bye.
Bye.